Alright guys, welcome back to the channel. It is a rainy day out here and we're tweaking on the MiG that I crashed not too long ago. If you haven't seen that video, check it out. Playing with some car stuff earlier. You see I did some custom work on my wife's truck for Christmas. I actually really like the pink. Anyways, what the heck? We got two Geebees for Christmas. The Geebee has always been one of my favorite classic airplanes. I actually got to see Delmar Benjamin, who built a replica R2 Geebee in the 90s and performed all across the states in air shows, doing maneuvers that everyone probably thought you could never do with a Geebee. And he was a pretty wild pilot, and the dude was doing all kinds of crazy stuff. I'm pretty sure if I have a picture standing in front of the Geebee when I was about Bentley's age, about 14 or so. At that air show, I'm pretty sure he did a ribbon cut knife edge. So, pretty cool airplanes. A lot of neat history with the Geebee. And yes, the dryer is going. But why the heck do I have my Sig Cadet sitting next to my Geebee with a ruler or a scale out in front of it? That's why. It's an OS 52. And, well, as cool as this model is, and honestly, after assembling it, Bentley helped me put it together. But, pretty neat little model. I'm actually pretty impressed by the design work on this model. Very, very nicely done. And if you haven't seen any flying videos of this airplane, it's actually a very nice flying airplane. But I feel like it's missing something. And I love internal combustion. I like making noise. I like burning fuel. I like starting engines. I don't know what it is. Everyone thinks I'm crazy because I have this F86 with an old ducted fan motor in it. And the A4 is next, and I should be working on that right now, but I'm not because I'm easily distracted. So we are going to take the Bearcat back out. If you watch that video, the wind got very interesting on us very quickly the last time I tried to fly it. So it's all ready to fly again. I had to make a couple of tweaks to that airplane. That's another story for another time. So I started looking at the Geebee, and I'm thinking, man, it'd be really cool to put a four-stroke in this thing because it would sound really neat, perform at least the same, if not slightly better. Flight times would be maybe slightly, well, the flight times would definitely be better. But I also like doing stuff that's different. And I can guarantee I'm probably the only person that's ever going to put a glow motor in one of these. Although I'm not sure if you guys saw it or not, somebody put a little tiny Cox motor in the UMX Geebee a couple years ago, and that was kind of neat. But anyways, I started looking at measurements, and honestly I feel like this is going to be a pretty simple process. And if I mess it up, I go buy a new fuselage and swap all the stuff into it and then just have a stock one. I don't think I'm going to mess it up though. I think it's going to be pretty sweet. So I think all I'm going to do is essentially chop the whole lower cowling off, cut it nice at the back edge here all the way around, make a plywood firewall. Essentially, if I make a firewall right here, that motor fits perfectly. The only thing I really have to figure out is the orientation of the motor. Obviously, I can stand it straight up, and then I can get to everything super easily with the hatch off. I can put it down, but the only issue with that is the exhaust is going to come out right around this area, which is fine, but I feel like the exhaust is probably going to melt the paint. I'm not worried about the foam. This foam, you can't hurt it with. You could pour glow fuel all over this, and it wouldn't hurt it. But the paint, I could probably try it on like a test. I mean, you're not getting a ton of raw fuel on the paint, but you would be getting some. So I think over time it would probably wear it away. The only thing is that if I mount it at an angle, I can shoot the exhaust straight out the bottom, and then there'll be pretty minimal exhaust contact. But if I do that, sort of complicates throttle hookup. It complicates taking the motor in and out. So I don't know. I might just mount it straight up. I don't know that much will stick out of the cowling. I might have just a little bit of the valve cover sticking out right here, and I can just paint it red. You probably wouldn't even notice it. And you'd have access right here to fill up the fuel and you know, work on the motor if you had to. So I think I'm going to do it. Shouldn't take too long. I like doing different stuff. At the end of the day, Bentley's got one as well, so if I want to fly a stock one, I can fly a stock one. But I think having a 4-stroke in this thing could be pretty cool. So I'm going to give it a whirl. And only I would take a brand new airplane and chop it up and potentially ruin it. But like I said, having spare parts, you can just always, you know, buy another fuselage and redo it. So I'm going to bust out the knife and do what I do, which is start cutting things that I probably regret doing, much like I did with my SR-71. I cut into it and immediately it was like, why did I do that? Thankfully, worked out really well. This thing is a ton of fun to fly with the 80s in it. So I'm going with the same process here. I think the 52 should have a lot of power. I had this 52 in my Corsair, which is a 40 size Corsair. Now it has a 91, which is absolutely ballistic in that airplane. And that's an old Great Plains 57-inch wingspan, weighs about 8.5 pounds. I'm not sure what these weigh. I think they're 4-ish, so half the weight. So the 52 flew the Corsair pretty nice. It was a little underpowered. Not underpowered, just not grossly overpowered like most of my stuff is. So I was thinking about putting a 70. I have a 70, an old Surpass 70, and this motor is, I don't think it's hardly ever been run. This is a late 80s motor. Bentley's building this Cub right here, and I think that's what this motor is going into. But I thought about this one for just a minute, but I was like, it's kind of too much. A little too much motor. I think the 52 will actually be just about perfect in here. I'm also going to run it straight pipe. I'm going to take the muffler off, use the crankcase pressure to pressurize the fuel tank. So anyways, I'm talking a lot. I'm going to start cutting. All right, so here we have the chopped fuselage. So I'm going to have to obviously cut most of this out. I will actually just cut out this stuff and leave these mounts for the cowling. Then that'll get cut out, and then I'm going to have to do a little recess in here to make up for the thickness of the firewall. That my dad's over, and we were talking about engine placement. And one of my ideas was originally to have it upside down like this at an angle to shoot the exhaust out the center. But then you have to have access to the bottom side of the cowling to get the screws off if you ever have to service the engine. And that's kind of a pain because then you have to make the cowl removable. I wanted to kind of avoid that. I wanted to just put the firewall in and glue the lower section back on. And if I do it right side up, which definitely a possibility, the exhaust doesn't, it comes out on top. So if it eats the paint, then you got a problem. And so I'll put it at 45. It was my dad's idea, which would shoot the exhaust straight out the side right here down to the bottom of the cowling. So, and then I'll still have access to all the screws through the hatch, and I'll have access to everything I need access to. So that's what we're going to do. And this 52 is actually small enough to fit inside the cowling without having it stick out at all. So all I have to do is grind out one of these cylinders for cooling. Then I'll paint this up real nice and screw it back into this. Do a little bit of work cutting some stuff out of here. Nothing too crazy. Make a little half moon firewall. Screw that to it. Obviously got to line all that up. But that should be pretty much it. I could probably almost use this stock prop too, which would be kind of crazy. But maybe I will. I don't know. Anyways, I got some other wood options for props and stuff like that. And then I'm just going to clean out this tank. This is the tank from the Cadet. And I'm just going to... I might look for a smaller one. This tank will... You could fly this thing for half an hour on that tank. So I could put a smaller tank in it, which I might do. But anyways, I haven't weighed everything yet, and maybe I'll do that now so we can compare the weights. But everything, it should actually be pretty similar if you count the battery. So let's check that out. All right, so it's 1 pound, 4 ounces, minus some of the plastic mount work, which I'm not going to count. And then if we do the this motor and slap this fuel tank. Obviously, we're still going to need a servo for the throttle. So it's actually essentially the same weight as the stock power setup, but you'll have fuel in it, obviously. This is a 14-ounce tank. I could probably run an 8-ounce tank in it. And this is a 3200. Most guys are running 4000s or even 5000s in this airplane. So weight is going to be very, very similar. Not enough to even notice if it is heavier. It'll be heavier at takeoff, but once you get ready to land it, it should be essentially the same weight as the electric version. So that's pretty cool. But yeah, it's got to grind some stuff up and make a firewall, and then we'll be it. All right, guys, this is where we are at. It's fitting pretty good. You can see the cylinder back in there. Let me drop this ring off. All right, so relatively simple. Like I said, I just made like a half moon firewall. Got some 832 bland nuts. I got my exhaust pipe, just a copper tube. This is actually one of my old header pipes from one of my radial powered Bearcats that I had. So anyway, it's going to have a couple of clamps on the hose section there. You can see everything's a little snug, but overall not terrible. So just need to sort of fuel proof the firewall really quick and set up a servo for the throttle, set up a tank, put the wing back on, and yeah, that's pretty much it. I am going to detail the fake radial, obviously. I'm probably going to use the ESC strap area to strap the tank down. Maybe just a zip tie or maybe a Velcro strap. But anyways, fits in the cowl. Got a little bit of right thrust and just a hair down, and fits like a glove in there. Alright guys, we're ready to fire this thing up. Got a little throttle servo set up. Got the exhaust right out the bottom. Brand new fuel tank plumbed. I'm gonna have to get some smaller receiver packs, but this 2200 is all I got for right now. So anyways, I got an old school top flight prop, and yeah, we're gonna fire this thing up. Well, gotta do some tuning. I don't know how well it likes the crankcase pressure as the pressure source. This motor also hasn't run in a couple of years, so gonna do some tuning, but yeah, we'll see if we can get it to run better. Well, I guess that's going to do her. It does have some tuning issues, although it is pretty cold and wet out here, but I don't think that it likes the crankcase pressure for the fuel tank. So I'm going to have to come up with some kind of pressure tap for the exhaust. So I think once I do that, it'll run fine. But yeah, I got to detail the radial and essentially just bolt the front back on this thing, and well, it's ready to fly. So anyways, hope you guys like the E-Flite Geebee Nitro Glow conversion. And well, we'll see you in the next one.